Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to be here, although I may not be the moderator anymore. I think you're going to moderate now? No. That's what she said backstage. I'm April Montgomery-Goble, and I am the Executive Director of KIPP Chicago. I'm really excited to be here this afternoon because it's just been a gift to see so many educators here learning and growing for the first time. I'm also excited to be here with two people who have really shaped a lot of the work that I've been doing over the last couple of years with artificial intelligence. So I want to start with Dr. Mahalia Ann Hines, who's been a lifelong educator in Chicago. She's the president of the Common Ground Foundation, and she is going to be releasing her new book called Tomorrow's Children, How to Stay Human in a High-Tech Society this week at ASU+GSV. And then I know Dr. Hines would like to say a few words about Rajen.
I'm excited to introduce Rajen. I met him last year, and because of him, I've become an expert in AI. You know I'm lying, right? The best I know about AI is probably my phone and Siri, but I'm getting further. He's helping me. He's great. One of the things about Rajen that I learned last year is he's seen as the father of Google. He was with Google for 17 years, and many of the apps that you use were created by him or at least introduced to him. I am maybe sad that he left Google, but I'm so happy that he is a part of the educational world. One of the reasons I'm excited about him is because of Kyron Learning, his company. His company has a teacher on his staff. You know how powerful that is? Because like she said, I'm a teacher, and we're usually the last one to have input. But he knew how important it is. So I'm excited to introduce to you my friend, Rajen.
Thank you, Dr. Hines.
So I'm going to start with a little bit about our journey together, the three of us. I first started working with Rajen, I think it's been almost 2 years now, close to right. 2 years, just before Rajen wrote his first code. And last year, I was able to connect Rajen and Dr. Hines together. And then we went on this journey to really think about how we can inform and shape AI from a more human-centric position. And so over the summer, Dr. Hines worked on a book that I just mentioned, and I invited Dr. Hines and Rajen to come into KIPP Chicago in October to have a conversation with 400 of our teachers in Chicago. I thought that was really important because at that time, there was a lot of fear around artificial intelligence. I also had concerns about AI, but realized that I didn't know enough to have valid concerns or to really begin to shape the technology that was in front of me. So I started working with the two of them. I invited them both to come and talk. Rajen led a session called Demystifying AI with our teachers, which was really powerful. And then Dr. Hines shared some of her lessons. So I'm going to start with Dr. Hines. I'm going to anchor in some quotes from our teachers back in October. So 3 quotes that really resonated from our teachers. One quoted Dr. Hines from the session: "I don't think we can have a high-tech without high touch and expect our children to grow up to be kind, loving, empathetic, and respectful adults." Another quote was, Dr. Hines asked us to imagine the student you want to see when they graduate and think about how to model those skills for your students. And then the last one was, Dr. Hines was a reminder to constantly demonstrate what you want to see, especially on those days when that seems really the hardest to do. Our children are watching. So Dr. Hines, in our earliest conversations about the use of AI, you have carried the mantra of ensuring that the human element of the work isn't left behind. What made you so passionate about that work?
Last year, when I attended this very same conference, I was very excited about all of the technology. But when I left, I began to think, how will this technology be used for our children? And what will be the human or cultural aspects that will be added to it? So I began to discuss it and think about it really hard and knew that there had to be a human aspect to it. And it's not just totally with AI. I constantly am concerned when I see people who sit at a table with you and don't even speak, get in an elevator and don't speak. And I'm wondering, what is happening to our children if we have adults who are acting this way and children do what they see, not what you tell them?
Thank you, Dr. Hines. I know from working so closely with you on your book, there's a lot of, yes, give it up for Dr. Hines. There's a lot of her messages from the book that have really resonated with me, things that I would think that I was doing already, but really wasn't as mindful or conscious of it. So things like getting on an elevator and saying hello to someone really began to shape the way that I am and my way of being every day. Rajen, I want to talk to you now a little bit about how you're thinking about this idea of centering humanity. So you have been a very unique partner in this process because you've worked with us very closely and now with Dr. Hines. How has the idea of maintaining your humanity impacted your platform design?
Yeah, maintaining humanity, I think, is a crucial part of this. And I think one thing that I discovered, so after I left Google, I wanted to do something in education, but as I talked to more and more educators, I think it, for me, revealed a blind spot that I'm a technologist, but I'm not an educator. And it kind of built this reality within me is that to really get this right, you have to mix the technology with the art that every educator has. Every educator has their own unique art. And if you bring those two together, you can actually create something powerful, but just the technology by itself isn't as powerful. And so what I wanted to really try to do is empower educators to be able to express their art to more and more people using the combination of their art and AI. And that, I think, has been really interesting. It's been great, working with you and the educators at KIPP and seeing how students react to that they really react when they see and feel like they're working with a great educator. And it's also been the educators that we have on staff have really kind of shown that as well, because mixing their art with the product has made the product even better.
So Rajen, I want to share one story. So back in October, and then I want to talk about that progression from October until now. But one of the things that, I was already a big fan of yours, but one of the things that really has stayed with me was in October when you both came to Chicago, you and Dr. Hines, you had a lunch with some of our teachers after the presentation. I think Patty Crespo is probably out there somewhere. She's an educator at KIPP Chicago. And she shared, at that time, I was really focused on just saving teachers more time. And with the exception of your technology, we had very limited technology going in front of our students. It was really teacher integrated focused. And Patty gave you some feedback, and it really shifted the way we were thinking about AI. So we were first thinking about it as just saving teachers time in year one. Fast forward, we now have your product in front of our students in a classroom, leveraging your technology to help with our students who are new to the country and needed translation. So could you talk a little bit about that conversation with Patty and how that shaped where we are today?
Yeah, that was a huge insight for us as well, because that idea that students that are multilingual learners needing more support, particularly in math, has always been something that I've been very passionate about. But it was interesting to see how that resonated, how our product resonated with them. So just for a little background, what our product does is that we make it so that a teacher can build effectively a video-based AI solution that feels like you're talking to that teacher. And what's powerful about that is that the students feel like they're actually having a conversation with that teacher and actually build a connection with that teacher. Now, one of the issues that we had actually the very first time that we tried the product in a school is that we had English only. And we could actually see that there were students that were Spanish speakers that didn't really get the product all that well. And so what we actually did is we brought in a couple of teachers that built lessons specifically in Spanish to mirror the lessons that we had in English. And now we've tried it with multilingual learners, and it's really amazing to see what's happened. And Patty's insight there, I think, has led to us now seeing that a lot of the multilingual learners, they're very advanced in math, but they're not able to really show that in the class because they don't have the right tools to be able to show that to them in their own language and with culturally relevant content as well.
Yeah. And I know I've said this to you, but one of the things that I've appreciated the most, and I hope that more technologists do this, is how deeply you've listened to us. So when I observed Patty and Stephanie's classroom a couple of weeks ago, I saw so many things that we had given you just little tips on, maybe, at the very beginning of our journey. So incorporating SEL tools into the model. I saw engagement tips that we had given you integrated into the platform. So those things, I'm just really grateful that you listened to us and took, our thoughts and actually integrated it into your platform. So Dr. Hines, you've also worked closely with Rajen now. How has being connected with Rajen and Kyron Learning and his work shaped your work?
I think that one of the things I do when I talk to teachers, I approach it very differently because many of them, as April mentioned, was really afraid of AI. Then it almost went to the extreme, those that I were talking with. They began to fall in love with the time-saving element of it. And I think that was great. I would have loved to have something that would have saved me time doing lesson plans because it would have given me more time with the children face to face. I would have loved something that would have saved me time administratively. But I began to say, it can't be just about time. They have to be taught to be very discerning about the AI that's introduced to them and the lessons. And they have to be able to make decisions, teachers do, about what's best for the kids. It's a tool, but it's only as good as we, and I say we because I'll always be a teacher, as we use this tool. And we cannot do what has happened to us in the past, and that's why I love Rajen. You can't let people just give you this book and say, teach it, or give you this tool and say, use it. Our voices must be heard so that our children learn what we need them to learn, and not only about artificial intelligence, but what about the human intelligence? What about, are we teaching them to know how to use this tool in a way that we care about other humans and we develop our humanity?
One of my favorite moments over the last, I think, 6 months is I remember getting a call from you and you were actually using AI and developing a lesson plan. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, with my foundation, my program director, we had gotten a grant, to make a long story short. And so they wanted to use my son's books as part of the grant instead of using other books. And neither being an educator, I said, oh, I'll write the lesson plans for you. I think I honestly forgot how time consuming it was to write a lesson plan. Now I'm in Florida on retirement, you all. So
not really retirement.
I brought the book out and it's called I Love You, But I Like Me. That book sat beside me for 3 days. And then I remembered Magic Schoolhouse that I was introduced to last year. Boy, I loved that program. I dropped a few words in it. A lesson plan came out so good that I didn't even have to tweak it. And I'm telling you, I was an excellent teacher. I did great plans. I said, my God, I wish I had had this.
And for everyone in the audience who may not know, who is your son?
Oh, no, we're not going to tell them.
Okay. Her son is Common, for those of you who don't know. Okay, so I want to shift now to Rajen talking a little bit about the newest thing that you've developed. And I've been a part of a couple of those conversations around that new product, and I know a lot of our teachers are excited about that. Can you talk a little bit about Studio?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we started with, and which we started with in KIPP, is we were building what we were calling multimodal AI. So not AI that's just a chatbot, but it's video, voice, visuals, so that you can really kind of express a teacher's art and then be able to get a student to conceptual understanding. And we have a bunch of content around fourth grade math that has been working really well in schools. And what we've now tried to do is make it so that we can expand that to any subject that's out there. And so we have a product called Kyron Studio. And one of the pieces of feedback that we got from your teachers and from others was that it's hard to create some of this content. And so what we now have is the tool called Kyron Studio, where you just enter in the title, the lesson objective, and the audience, and we automatically generate a video-based lesson for that particular topic that has instruction, that has questions that we ask the student, and that evaluates the student for misconceptions as well. And so it makes it really easy, and now we have lessons in everything from economics to English to social studies to math.
Great. So I think this is my second to last question. When we think about how we can prepare students for a future where AI plays an increasingly prominent role in various aspects of our life, how do you think we can do that better? How do you think we can prepare our children, tomorrow's children?
So I think about this a lot because I have a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old. And I've worked a lot in technology and education, but it wasn't until I had my own kids that I realized there has to be a balance to how much technology that's there. I think the number one thing is how do we integrate this into the educational system? Because it's not just the AI that's going to teach. You need the combination of the great educators that they have in the classroom and the technology to be able to actually have that right back and forth and give the student the right support. And that's where I think the humanity really comes in. How do we accentuate and amplify the educator?
Yeah, thank you. So Dr. Hines, this question is for you. One of the things that has been really inspiring being here yesterday and today is I've been to ASU+GSV for several years, and being here with so many educators has been really, really inspiring. And I remember you and I talking a little bit, and you wrote about this in your book, about having a little bit of hesitation wanting to give feedback because you weren't sure if they were really going to listen to you, let technologists listen to you. So could you talk a little bit about that?
You need to repeat that.
Okay.
That was fun. Say it again for me.
Okay, so you talked in your book about having fear about giving feedback to educators, and the AIR show is very dedicated to educators exploring the technology, giving feedback. So talk a little bit about why you felt like it was important to give feedback to technologists.
Right. The fear was giving feedback to technologists, not to teachers, because I didn't feel that we were respected enough or valued enough until I met Rajen, and I felt there are people, and there are probably many more, who value, what we said. So originally, when I left the conference, I was gung-ho. I'm gonna go speak to technology companies and talk to them about, what they're creating for our children. And then I said, wait a minute, they're not gonna listen to me. I don't feel that they would listen to me. But like I say, after I met Rajen, I realized there were some out there who will listen to us. And it's up to us to have our voices heard.
Great.
And like I say, we need to speak up and not be recipients, always receptacles of the materials that are out there, but begin to create them ourselves. And by the way, Rajen, I would have used your program, but it wasn't out at the time. I would have used them.
So I want to end with just thanking you both again, because yesterday I sat through a session on Afrofuturism and artificial intelligence led by KIPP Chicago teachers who are here today. And I know that they wouldn't have been in this place without you all sharing your learnings and insights with our educators. So thank you both so much for everything that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.